Chapter 23 Recovery. Groaning as they made their way toward the port town in the distance, Aghanim wished that they could stop long enough for him to heal himself with his magic, but that could take a long time, and it would have left them open to being attacked again. Now that the constant fighting was over for the time being, the robed wizard was feeling every one of his injuries that he had sustained from fighting Ganondorf, as well as the Zora's attempts to eat him, making it hard to move at all, let alone walk. It was helping to be able to lean on the girl who had pretty much saved his life, but that didn't stop the pain, and the slippery ground wasn't helping.
"Almost there,"
she said while wiping the rain from her eyes with her free hand.
"I know it hurts, but just stay awake, all right? What's your name?"
Aghanim, he groaned, his legs almost giving out. "I need to get back to the Eastern Forest. I have to tell Link I failed." He didn't like to think of himself a failure, but it was true. Ganondorf had given him a pretty thorough beating, but the worst of it was that the sorcerer had taken the chest. Impa had told him that there were a bunch of them, so there was only a small chance that it was the important one, but he had still let his best friend down. Link and the old woman were probably worried sick about him by now, and had probably rushed up to what was left of Lizard Mine to save him, but he would find nothing. The only good thing to come of this was being able to lean on this incredibly beautiful girl, and the robed wizard wasn't sure, but there was a chance that she was in the carriage they pretended to rob.
"Aghanim?"
she asked, trying to support his weight better.
"My name is Miranda. No, don't fall. Try to keep standing. Come on, stay up, that's it."
"I'm trying," he groaned while breathing heavily. "Thank you, Miranda. Thank you for helping me." It felt like the walk took forever and a day, but finally they passed the city limits of Port Hylia, and at least the cobblestone streets were easier to walk on than loose mud. Still, the city was large, and the robed wizard's legs were just about to give out, when Miranda turned, and he sighed with relief as they moved up to the door of an inn. Thankfully, there were hardly any people around as they went inside, and the ones who were there didn't pay any attention to them, but then they came to a flight of stairs. Of course, her room just had to be on the second floor, and the agonizing trek up the stairs was worse than the whole journey from the sewers to the inn had been altogether. "Miranda!" a voice exclaimed as they approached a door. "I thought you went with... Who is this, person, and dear me, what's happened to him?"
"Father, I'm so glad to see you,"
she replied.
"He's hurt. Help me get him into the room."
Aghanim was relieved that the older man didn't hold them up with any more questions, instead just helping her to hold him up as she opened the door to her room, and then the two of them moved him over to the bed. They tried to be gentle as they lowered him onto it, but somehow it hurt even more to finally be able to relax his body completely. Miranda was still trying to make him comfortable, when her father motioned for her to follow as he left the room, giving him the first time alone that he had had since entering Lizard Mine. "Vitalidad," he said quietly while clutching his broken arm. There was a barely visible wave of distortion from his hand, and he sighed with relief as the healing magic began to dull the pain he was feeling. It would take a good amount of time and several casts of the spell in order to fix his arm as well as the rest of his body, but it was a start. Suddenly there was a wet snapping sound as the bone set itself into place, making him have to clench his teeth together in order to avoid crying out from the sharp burst of pain that came with it. "So is he the one?" he heard Miranda's father ask from out of the room. "Is that boy in there the reason you sneak out at all hours? Don't look at me like that, I'm your father. You think I wouldn't check on the safety of my only daughter at night? So, is he the one you have been seeing?"
"Yes."
Aghanim was surprised to hear her say after a brief hesitation.
"Yes, he is exactly the reason I sneak out. Yes, to see him. And I'll have you know, Father, that he was injured saving me from bandits, yes. I was on my way home from that horrible trip I had to take earlier today, and Aghanim saved me when I was attacked, because a young woman like me couldn't possibly defend herself."
Still inside the room, Aghanim was confused by the words she was saying, as if Miranda was trying to quickly come up with a set of lies in order to hide... something. Did she simply not want to worry her father with the story of how they barely escaped a dozen hungry Zoras? But then again, she had apparently been sneaking out at night. A lot. And it certainly hadn't been to see him, so the robed wizard wondered what she was really hiding. The pain in his arm was slowly decreasing while Miranda was heard finally convincing her father to allow her to tend to him, And then she came back into the room, sighing heavily when she closed and locked the door.
Do boys have to deal with this?
She asked, turning to face him.
Nosy parents who question their every move for fear that they are being improper? Or is it only girls who are automatically considered whores if they go somewhere without a chaperone for a few hours?
I couldn't tell you, he replied as she walked over to him. I don't have any parents, but it sounds like he cares about you. She just stood there looking down at him for several seconds while he recast the healing spell that was steadily improving his arm. The robed wizard was starting to be able to move his fingers again, and the spell was also beginning to dull the pain in the rest of his body, but this was offset when Miranda suddenly slapped him in the mouth so hard that it stung. Ow! Aghanim cried out. What was that for?
For kissing me without permission,
she replied harshly.
It was you, wasn't it? The one who stole me from the carriage and shoved your tongue down my throat during your little staged robbery? Pretending to be an evil wizrobe to scare my father into giving your friend a reward? Who do you think you are?
She slapped him again twice, but the third time he grabbed her wrist, which only resulted in her slapping him with the other hand, since he could still barely move the injured one. Miranda just kept slapping him, and yes, he deserved it, but that didn't mean he was going to just lay there and let her abuse him. So, ducking down a little, he attempted to catch both of her wrists with one hand, but instead, she grabbed his hand with both of hers and bent it backwards while pinning it against the headboard.
What, no picking me up and teleporting me this time?
She asked, bending his hand back more as she sat on the bed.
Now, I want you to apologize for taking advantage of me like that.
I'm sorry, Aghanim groaned. I'm sorry, Miranda, I'm sorry. It was wrong for me to do that. Please let go. Seeming to be satisfied, Miranda let him go, and the robed wizard wanted to massage his sore wrist, but with his other arm only partially healed, he could do nothing but lay there. Again, she just sat there for several seconds before reaching for him again, causing Aghanim to jump a little. But instead of hitting him again, she put her hands on his cheek and kissed him just as deeply as he had done to her during the staged robbery. This time, it lasted for a lot longer though, not that he minded when her arms went around him, and she lay partially on top of him. Miranda smelled so good, with her kiss making him forget all about his pain, and he was sad when their lips finally parted. Oh my, Aghanim said with a pleased exhale. I don't think I will ever understand women, but I think I can live with that.
Yes, that was nice,
she whispered, giving him another quick kiss before she sat up.
You should probably finish healing yourself now, wizard.
Miranda winked at him as she stood up, but then there was a wooden thud as the chest she had found in the sewers slipped out of her pocket and hit the floor. To say that Aghanim was surprised to see that it had the symbol of Hyrule's royal family on it would have been an understatement, and he couldn't help gasping the moment he saw it. But where had it come from? It couldn't have been the one from Lizard Mine, since Ganondorf had taken that one personally, so had there been one down in the sewers? But why? Why would Zelda have sent a scout down into that death trap? That chest! He exclaimed while pointing at it. It's one of the ones that Princess Zelda hid from Ganondorf. I'm sorry, Miranda, but I need to get it back to Impa right away.
Wait, how do you know Impa?
She demanded, picking up the chest from the floor.
Explain yourself, wizard. What do you know about these chests?
Spiritui Sancta, donne al nifo